What happens when you hit retirement for a lot of people is there's a big identity shift. And we have to be really careful not to rush into retirement. I know we all think we want to retire real quick, but there's a lot of things that happen even in the nervous system and just in your life that kind of have to unravel and entangle in a new way. And there's all kinds of statistics around people who work up until the age of 65, they retire and they drop dead. So there's a lot of decisions to be made. The most important one, though, is that you're able to do this and now gets to also be on your terms. Because I think some people think like, oh, I'm going to just like put my head down, work my ass off, and then retire. And that's such a dangerous thing to do. You have to already be living into what you believe. You already have to be in alignment before you make these big decisions. So that part's already done, which is going to be easy. But the rest is going to be a slow transition on your time and on your terms. That's the beauty of retirement.
Hey, quick update. We just sent out a whole bunch of stickers again today. I thought that you might want to know that because I just love when we get the notifications that people are doing things in this course.
I just love stickers. Did you collect stickers as a kid? Yes, you did. Of course you did.
Yes, like the scratch and sniff ones. Remember
Yes.
those?
Mm,
That, that doesn't
smells
smell.
smells like financial freedom. It does. When you complete phase one, when you're in the online program of Get the Hell Out of Debt, we send you this sticker which says Get the Hell Out of Debt. And then the best part is when you pay off all of your debt, boom, you get the sticker that says I got the hell out. This one, oh, smells so good. So good. I'm just gonna rub it all over my body.
Like
Just
a pheromone. You've got like a new, oh dear.
yeah.
Oh, she went
It was
south.
my lap. I just realized you can't see below and I rubbed it on my legs. And
Sure
then
you did. Sure you did.
um and so if you are part of the online program, we just have a lot of fun. We just send you those stickers just for the heck of it. Just because sometimes it's fun to put that on your water bottle. I also think having a sticker that says I got the hell out, like on your binder or your backpack or your water bottle, like raises a lot of questions for the people that you love. And that can be really fun too.
Yeah, they're like, you got the hell out of what? What
Yeah.
did you get the hell out of?
Yeah. I am also this, like, I've been on this top secret mission for a long time, and we don't really talk about it a ton, but in my little, circle, we have something called the Toilet Paper Club, which is when you hit $1 million in net worth, I mail you a roll of toilet paper.
Hmm.
And but it's a roll of toilet paper with Ben Franklin on it. And so it's just a bunch of $100 bills that you now get to wipe when you pee, just for the sake of being like, this is how rich I am. It's just really fun. Anyway, so we get to talk to somebody who's likely a member of the Toilet Paper Club today because she is officially financially free. And she was on the podcast a bunch of years ago talking about when she did get the hell out of debt. So she's got a couple of stickers and now some toilet paper headed her way, but we thought she'd be worth talking to today. I've been nervous though because you're my best friend and I want to keep you forever and ever and ever. But I think Jillian might steal you from me because you two are both so awesome and so alike.
Yep, we really are awesome. And I know that only because I listened to the podcast episode you did with her 5 years ago, and I loved her already just from that version. So I can't wait to talk to her today. Jillian, tell me, because Erin obviously already knows this. How did you guys meet? When did you come into the Erin Skye Kelly world and the Get the Hell Out of Debt world?
My ex-husband was a videographer for Erin back in the day, and he gifted me a transformation weekend. I can't remember what year that was. It was before 2017. And so I came into a transformation weekend, not really ever having heard of Erin. Oh, no, wait, I had heard of Erin because I went to Mount Royal College and she came and did a seminar, a workshop with our classroom. So I had heard of her before, but other than that, had not really heard of the work that she was doing with. So I went into that weekend, came out of it a changed woman, and then eventually took advantage of the Get the Hell Out of Debt program when it was offered.
Okay, wait, Erin, you're a professor also?
No, but so I graduated from Mount Royal University, or whatever it was called at the time, in broadcasting. That's my background. That's how I met you, Carrie, because you and I both worked in broadcasting together. And I am old and Jillian is young and fresh. And so our professor would have me come back and speak every year or like do these like little workshops and stuff for people talking about the industry. Like I think a lot of people in the broadcasting industry believe this lie. And I was just talking to somebody yesterday who's also in a sports industry, and she also believes this lie that, you can only make so much in an industry. And I came back to say there actually is no limit on the industry. Your ability to negotiate is going to be really important. So he would kind of bring me back to kind of talk a little bit about money and limiting beliefs and goal setting and like how to set up a career, because most of the people that graduated my program would go on to like Yorkton, Saskatchewan and be like an ag reporter, right? And I was like, oh, I kind of want to do something different. And so I set my sights really big. As you all know, I wanted to work for MTV. And that was the only thing I was willing to accept for myself. So that was the standard that I set. And then I went about this. You all know the story of me applying and sending all those crazy packages to Mira Livingston at 180 Oxford Street in London, England, like over and over and over again. But that's how I built my career, with that tenacity. And so they wanted me to come back and teach the kids. And what was interesting is they always keep stats, and they would say like, the graduate percentage, 96% of the people who take this program go on to work in the field. 70% of them earn X dollars or whatever. So that's how they recruit people into the program. After I started giving those talks, the amount of dollars that graduates would get went way up. And so anyway, so that's what Jillian's talking about. I came and spoke to her class, and
So
that's
you
that.
needed to get a cut for that broadcasting program is
Yeah.
basically what should have happened.
Can you imagine me actually being a professor? What a disaster that would be.
I don't know. I think you should add that to your business card though, Professor Kelly. Okay,
Anyway,
Jillian, you were at Transformation Weekend and you said that it was like a life-changing thing. What did you learn? Do you remember what some of the takeaways were from that?
I was working a traditional 9 to 5 job, and had left the broadcasting film industry because I had found it so difficult and challenging to get ahead, and wanted something more stable, and was largely raising my kids on my own. So just needed some more consistent hours and that kind of thing. So I had left the industry, but my big dream was always to be a documentarian. So after my first transformation weekend, I went back to that dream, um, among all kinds of other things that you learn at transformation weekend. Just bettering all of the pie, the balance, spiritual, friends and family. That all of the areas of your life. So learning to improve all those aspects of your life. But yeah, the big thing was, as many people do when they leave transformation weekend, I'm going to quit my job.
That's so true. So many people leave and they shift. Like, that's a big deal making that decision. And there's a lot of people you're responsible for quitting their jobs, Erin.
well, no, 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 no. I think what we have to look at is, this is not me being defensive, but there are just a ton of people who end up in jobs they don't like because of the conditioning we have of like, I need to earn $40,000 a year. Therefore, these are the careers that pay that. Therefore, like, we're not choosing our lives based on what's on our hearts. We're choosing it based on it, like how much debt we have, or what our parents did, or expectations of other people. And so when you can get back, what Transformation Weekend doesn't like create a new you, it like peels back all the layers to who you actually are underneath. And when you can reconnect with that part of you, it's just natural that so many people would go, wow, I am actually really unhappy in this career that I don't love. And now I can see a way that I can earn the income that I desire in a job that better supports like my dreams and what I'm put on this earth to do. So don't look at me like I'm out there causing HR issues. It's like, there are people who are in the wrong jobs. So many, hundreds of millions of people who are in the wrong jobs to begin with.
Jillian, you were on this podcast already, like 5 years ago. Erin had you on, and I was listening to that this morning before we jumped online. So you told us back then that you had paid off $300,000 in under a year. That is incredible. Can you tell me a little bit about how you did it? Do you remember what you did?
Yeah, so what we didn't include in the first podcast was that included mortgage debt. Well, I guess we did talk about it a little bit, because I said that the reason why I was so angry about it, like what the impetus was to make it happen fast, was that my husband and I had divorced, but I had wanted to stay in the home, so I had to pay him out for it. So I included that new mortgage debt in the amount that I wanted to pay off. So it wasn't just consumer debt in this case. So that's what the amount of debt was. And then the main thing that I did was I made the really hard decision to give up home ownership,
Mm.
which is something, psychologically in our culture, in our society. Yeah, I'm even getting emotional about it, telling you now, 7, 8 years later, six, yeah, whatever it was. Um, we put great value on achieving home ownership, on being homeowners. We believe that's a part of the success we should have. And it's a goal that most of us set for ourselves. You go through a certain, you get married, you have kids, you get the dream or the career job, you pay off your mortgage, or you buy a new house, you pay off your mortgage. There's so many people believe in that. And so that was the biggest decision that I made. Um, I sold my home to a family member. So I was able to stay in the house, but it still was a really big hurdle to get over to make that decision.
Mm.
Do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more? More
More
of this,
what? What do I
more,
want more of?
more of this. Come
Oh,
hang out in the online course, Forget the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there.
yeah. So how did like you made that decision because you didn't want that to be a debt that you had hanging over you, yes?
Mhm,
Okay, how did that work? Like, so then you were paying rent to this person that purchased it?
mhm.
And then how long till you felt comfortable?
Pretty immediately, I think, because it made a difference in my life and I was able to pay off. So there was consumer debt as well. But then I was able to pay all of that off using the get the hell out of debt method in that short amount of time. And that was so super exciting that I couldn't deny that joy
Mhm.
over versus owning a home.
Mhm.
Mm.
I think that's something that's really important to note is that sometimes when we own a home, we're constantly comparing the mortgage cost to the rent cost. And we look at it, we go, well, I'm paying $2,000 in rent because the bank won't give me a $1,200 mortgage. Well, that's not all of the costs involved in homeownership. There's property taxes, there's all of the repairs, which, on a brand new home, maybe not noticeable in the first year or two, but certainly when you're in a home that's, 8 years, 9 years old, there's all these other costs. And sometimes they're $20,000, $30,000 costs, like a new roof, or like, and you have to come up with that somehow. Whereas when you're a renter, that's now the landlord's responsibility. And so we have to look at, if I didn't have to put that $30,000, let's say, into a new roof, what could that money be doing for me? How could I be compounding that? And over time, what does that money turn out to be? And so, yeah, we look down the road, and in Jillian's case, like, thankfully a family member, there was probably like a little bit of a rent control situation, so you didn't have like rising insane rent costs or whatever, so that's a benefit. But also now the all the other hard costs and some of the soft costs associated with homeownership are out of the way, and you just have a rent payment. So all of this other income now can be funneled, especially once you're debt free, towards investments and other things that make you financially free in the long run.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting about the Get the Hell Out of Debt program was, and you talking specifically about it, is that I think I first thought that you were going to tell us that we needed to have a home. And that's the opposite of what you say if it doesn't work. Like, if renting is not the worst thing to do,
Not.
if
No.
it makes sense for our budgets.
And listen, I'm a licensed mortgage broker, so I
Yeah.
realize the irony of all of it. But I see so many people, realtors, mortgage brokers, people in the financial services industry that take on so much debt that they don't have a life. And I'm like, why are we? And then you realize, oh, the real estate and mortgage industry has a vested interest in making you believe that this is a great investment because we earn money. If you get a mortgage, I get paid. And so what's interesting is like you really have to look at who's giving you the advice and why. Because I would get into it with people and I'd be like, why are we? And realtors are like, this is the best investment you're going to make. Like, buy the biggest house you can afford and pay it off in 25 years. And now you have an asset. I'm like, this ain't an asset. None of it. It's not an asset for the first year. It's not an asset in the 10th year. And it's not an asset in the 25th year. because it's taking money out of your pocket the whole entire time. So it's not a true asset. And so when you look at like all of the different aspects of what we used to call financial literacy, and you look at how it's designed to keep you enslaved to the lenders because you're constantly at their mercy and you're borrowing from them over and over again, you realize homeownership really isn't necessarily the greatest investment that there is.
Mm. So, Jillian, what is your housing situation now?
I'm still in that same home.
You
I'm
are.
still paying, as Erin put it, sort of. I'm lucky, so fortunate to be paying low rent because I get to pay it to a family member. But I want to mention that the other hurdle that I had to get over, also a psychological one. Not only is there something, about your status, being a homeowner, but then I also had to remove the home from my asset, like the portion, the paid portion of the home I did have in my asset column, and so I had to remove that. So I had this mortgage size debt in the liability column, and I had to remove the portion of the home that I owned that I did have listed in the asset side. So as soon
Equity.
as I as soon as I paid off that debt, my net worth went way down because I
Hmm.
had to take the house off of that spreadsheet.
Hmm.
So that was also a hurdle that I had to get over. Not worrying about what the net worth became, even though I'd paid off this big debt, and
Hmm.
just starting to do the work to contribute to increasing the net worth.
Okay, since you brought up net worth, will you tell us what your net worth is, how it's changed?
Yeah. So since the last podcast, I've increased my net worth by 50%.
Mm.
Wow. And it was a big net worth to begin with because you'd done some hard work paying off 300,000 technically, right? So that's a big jump.
Tell us what you were doing. So, what has happened in the last 5 years? We need all the updates from the last time Erin talked to you.
Well, and I think the piece that triggered all this, just so that our listeners know, is that when you were on the podcast 5 years ago, you said, I think I'm going to be financially free in 10 years. And then you happened to be listening to the podcast recently because you were going through your numbers and whatever. And you realized, holy cow, like I'm already here. And so you posted about that inside our social media group. And of course, everybody went nuts because you did it in half the time you said you were going to. So we were like, let's get you back and let's talk about this. So who the listener knows, spoiler alert, Jillian is officially financially free, which I'll let her explain.
Yeah. So the reason why I was playing the podcast back from the very beginning is because I really have been studying my numbers really closely. The last 3 years, I've been in a really, really intense contract job position that took it all out of me. It was rewarding and I learned a ton, and I loved the job, but I ended up leaving it in November with burnout,
Mm.
and have spent the last 6 months exploring what I'm going to do next, how I'm going to survive, that kind of thing. And so, I took some time off to rest. And then I started thinking, I want to, I want to retire. I want to retire. I don't want this rest to end. And so I went to Mexico for 6 weeks to do a test run. I
Mm.
thought to myself, I don't think that I can retire in Canada with the net worth that I've got yet, but maybe I can retire somewhere else. And so I went to Mexico, rented a couple of different apartments because I experimented with different neighborhoods in Puerto Vallarta, which is the city that I chose. So rented a couple of different apartments and just lived like a local for 6 weeks and tracked how much money it took me to live there, and came home and could not believe, even though the prices, inflation is happening in Mexico as well, the prices are way higher than they had been the last time I'd been to Mexico, and way higher than what I'd sort of researched and was expecting them to be. I still spent so much less in the 6 weeks down there, that than I would have here in Canada. So then when I got back, then I really thought, okay, I'm not looking for another job. I'm going to figure out how to make this work. And so I just made it my job to study my money and to figure out what my options were, figure out how to move money around, and one of the things that I've been doing over the last few years is I'm heavily invested in funds and stocks that pay dividends or distributions. So that's where the financially free piece comes in, is because I'm being paid by those stocks. And I used to sometimes take some of it out for money to use on expenses and living, but a lot of the time reinvest those distributions and dividends. But as I was taking a closer look at the money over these last few months, I realized that I can use that money to live on.
Yeah. And it won't decrease your net worth at a rate that's like spending. It's like it's an actual asset that's going to continue to produce you income, which is so cool. Carrie's like blown away. Look at her face.
I have goosebumps though too from you telling that story, because what a freaking amazing place to be in your life, that you were like, "Okay, I'm burnt out," but you didn't have to go back. Like, you had the opportunity to just be like, "That's it, taking care of myself." And on top of that, also, I'm not gonna go back to work because I think I can make this work. Jillian, this is where we all want to live. We want to live in the same place where we can have the freedom to make those choices.
What's cool
Yeah,
also is that you looked at multiple apartments like that. I just freaked right out when you said that. You were like, because some people get something in their mind and they stick to it. And that's a mistake we make when we goal set financially. We have to look at the outcome we want. And then from there, be open to the path that's going to get us there. And so you were like, okay, it might be this, it might be this, it might be this, but I'll narrow it down and I'll figure it out as I go. That was genius.
yeah, yeah. And there were a couple of reasons to that. I wanted to explore the neighborhoods and what area of Puerto Vallarta that I might like the best. I was renting through Airbnb. So, I mean, there's a certain level of quality assurance there, but I didn't want to be stuck in one place for 6 weeks that I really was unhappy with, either whether it be the neighborhood or the apartment itself. And the third thing is I was traveling solo as a woman, and uh, there it's a little scary to travel on your own in a foreign country. Um, and so I felt that there was some security and some sort of an exit strategy
Yeah.
to moving around a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm picturing you being like this nomad now, where you like do this travel documentary stuff where you're like teaching women about money and how you can actually retire in the best country. Like I just have like all of these visions coming to me. So, and you're nodding. So that might mean you've even thought about it yourself, but that's so cool that you're bravely going after this because it's so badass.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of pushback. I know you asked the question when people come out of, when people pay off all their debt, one of the questions is, what are the people around you saying? And most people say, my family doesn't like it, or they criticize me, or they can't believe it, or whatever. And so, Erin, I am older than you. I just went to Mount Royal
Oh,
after I had my kid. So I'm 51, which is still too young to retire. And that's the pushback that I'm getting.
this is so unfair. You, Jillian. Just you, okay? Look at your skin. Look at if you're 51. My God.
I was picturing you like 27 years old in Mexico on the beach,
Don't tell
tired,
me.
Jillian.
If I'm I'm editing all that out because I don't want to be reminded of that anyway. But it's cool. Yeah, I can see how family would be like, wait a second, like you have to be in the grind like the rest of us. Like, why are
You
you?
have to work. You like, what are you doing? What business do you have?
Yeah.
And yeah, and so there's been a lot of pushback there, but I think I said this in the first podcast. I think it's really fun to let people know what I'm doing and that it is actually possible. And I have a realtor friend who was really critical of it, and in the end, she went to her financial advisor, and she came back to me last week and said I can retire next year.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she made some changes as well and decided she doesn't need to be breaking her back anymore either. So
Oh, I
she's
love
of
that you.
retirement age, but she still didn't foresee herself retiring anywhere in the near future. So I
Well,
See
and I
what
think
happens? This again. See what happens, people, when we talk about money with the people that are in our lives and the people that we care about. We are making changes here. This is so cool. I love this so much, Jillian.
when Jillian was talking earlier about moving money around, just so that everybody's aware, what she's talking about is something called asset allocation. So she's not talking about moving money from a savings account over here or doing a balance transfer on her credit cards. That's not what she's talking about. She's talking about being really aware of how her money is performing. And these are all things we talk about in phase 3, of course, of the program. But asset allocation can be really important because depending on where your money is invested and how and the structure of it really does determine retirement. And there are lots of people out there who probably could retire if they moved their assets around, which is why talking to your financial planner is so important. A lot of people say, I sit down with my financial planner once a year. They say, what do you want to do in retirement? I say, I don't know, because I've never thought about it. Jillian has, because she went to transformation weekend. So she had a vision for her future. But if you're not clear on those financial goals, then the financial planner can't even match up the right asset allocation with your life. And so when Jillian was doing that, I was like, oh, this is genius, because now she's looking at ways that her income, her money bunnies are banging and they're making more money bunnies. So she doesn't have to kill the original bunnies. She can live off the bunny babies. That's a
Mhm.
terrible. I should use eggs as an example. She doesn't have to kill the golden goose. She gets to eat the eggs for the rest of her life.
Okay, so what are you doing next? When is all of this happening?
That I'm still not sure of. I've got two university age kids, and I'm wanting to be present for them at the moment. Both of them have some stuff going on in their lives, so I feel really blessed to have the time and capacity to just be there.
Mm.
Um, so I'm kind of so one of the things that I foresee doing is getting out of this house because it is, a larger family home and I don't need it anymore. So at some point I will downsize to a tiny apartment that I can just lock the door and go to Mexico because
Yeah.
I do still want to have my plan is to still have a home in Canada so that I can keep connections with family members and friends, but just something like a mattress to sleep on kind of thing. So that's one of my ideas going forward is to downsize this house, but not until my kids are ready. Um, my dog was also just diagnosed with cancer, so I
Mhm.
don't want to move her while we still have her.
Right.
Mhm.
So we've opted for chemo treatment for her. So long as she's still with us, we'll stay in this home. So some of my plans have been put on hold for a couple of those reasons, but absolutely by choice. Like these are things that I want to do. I want to stay where I am so that I can support the people and the animals in my life.
And Jillian is a phenomenal mom, Carrie. I'm sad that it's taken this long for you two to meet because she is like a soul friend, soul sister, and she raises great kids and loves everybody in her life with her. That's why she's got a giant heart around her neck right now as an accessory because it's a quarter of the size of her actual real living heart. But what happens when you hit retirement for a lot of people is there's a big identity shift. And we have to be really careful not to rush into retirement. I know we all think we want to retire real quick, but there's a lot of things that happen even in the nervous system and just in your life that kind of have to unravel and entangle in a new way. And there's all kinds of statistics around people who work up until the age of 65, they retire and they drop dead. And so we have to be really mindful that like a lot of that has to do with the stuff that's going on internally. It's the way our mind works, it's the way our heart works, it's the way our connections work. And we want to make sure that this transition is something that's done thoughtfully, which she's doing, but also with like all kinds of other outcomes in mind. And so she's already doing that, right? She's like, okay, it's going to require me to sell some stuff. Well, that's going to be a few weeks to months. Like we don't want to have a fire sale on everything in the house. We want to be mindful of this, what we're going to need. And also these kids, like they're going to be coming home in the summers or like where are they going to sleep and how are we going to navigate all that? And so there's a lot of decisions to be made. The most important one though is that you're able to do this and now gets to also be on your terms. You're not being forced out. You're not being handed a package. You're not being like, sorry, you don't understand how computers work anymore. So you're out of here. This is all by design and everything that you've done is continuing to build on all the things that you already believe and the way that you live your life already. So that's important because I think some people think like, oh, I'm going to just like put my head down, work my ass off, and then retire. And that's such a dangerous thing to do. You have to already be living into what you believe. You already have to be in alignment before you make these big decisions. So that part's already done, which is going to be easy. But the rest is going to be a slow transition on your time and on your terms. That's the beauty of retirement.
And so because of that, I do foresee myself maybe getting a part-time job somewhere, but I'm even thinking coffee shop because I don't want the stress. I'd love to do my 4-hour shift and get the heck out of there at
Yeah.
the end of each day. And I don't want it to take up a lot of my mental energy or physical time, because I am living into this retirement mentality. So, I do foresee doing something like that just to bring in a little bit extra and to keep me socializing and engaged and that kind of thing. And I am still like right into squeezing money. Like I was on the phone with just 2 days ago. I complained about something, so I got a credit. I switched to the floating rate because it's way less than the fixed rate right now. I told them I was going to switch to this company for my natural gas, and they said, no, 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 we'll match it.
Oh,
So I'm still right into that. I went into the bank the other day and got my bank fees reduced. I have several banks that I use, but the one that I have, is a traditional checking account, did have low fees, and then all of a sudden doubled. And so I
yes.
went in, got those credited back.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, and then got put on a lower monthly fee rate. So I'm still doing all those things.
Yeah.
That was
Um,
exactly what I was going to ask you, Jillian, was like, what are some of the things that you learned way back when you first came into the Get the Hell Out of Debt program that you're still using today? Obviously, your money muscles are huge and buff.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still doing all those things. So Erin's thing is chai tea latte, and mine has always been acrylic nails, but I gave those up this month. So I've got 2 nubs of acrylic nail on my hands there, and the rest have fallen off. I decided I don't need those right now.
I love that. But it's a decision also, just so you know, everybody that I know is going back to natural nails. Like everybody that I know that's like sexy and fashionable and like on the cutting edge is like, because it's like 2 hours out of your life every couple of weeks. And it's like an inconvenience because by the time you drive there and whatever, and then the tipping and all the, like it adds up so fast. And you're healthy. You obviously drink a lot of water. Look at your skin. You. Anyway, so your nails probably grow really fast. Like you can't get away with doing it once a month. So I just think it's important that that that's always a choice you get to make, and it can be that piece of, for you, like a symbol in a way of like I'm choosing freedom over nails.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I'm getting ready for a garage sale right now so that I can sell a bunch of stuff at once instead of listing things one at a time. I gave up my Nespresso and I'm back on. I have probably 5 bags of ground coffee in my cupboard that have been sitting there for ages because I favor my Nespresso. So I've given that up. So I'm constantly using the squeeze method
Mm.
to this day.
Especially now that you've got this great vision of Mexico, right? Tell us a
Exactly.
little bit about that vision. Like when you were there, walk us through like a typical day in retired Jillian's life.
Hmm. So one thing that always is the thing that is always the first sentence in those visioning exercises that we do in writing, where we think about a typical day. You start at the very beginning, you move through the day. What do you see yourself doing? The first sentence is always, I wake up naturally without an alarm when my body's ready.
Yes.
That's always, always been the first sentence of that writing exercise.
Yeah.
So I did that for 6 weeks.
Ooh.
And then I would um, make coffee and putter about. And then I would head out for a walk. And I walked and walked and walked and walked. I walked every single street in each of the neighborhoods that I explored for hours and hours and hours. And then I would stop for lunch somewhere or go home and make a little lunch. I was editing the film that you and I were, or the three of us were talking about a few weeks ago. So I did take a computer down there and did some work on that film in the middle of the day, in the heat of the day, and I'd sit in the apartment and do some editing, and then I'd head back out again in the late afternoon and just wander and wander, and usually have dinner in a restaurant somewhere on my own and a glass of wine or something like that, or and sit on the beach for sunset and then walk back home again.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm relaxed just hearing you talk about it.
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
amazing.
it was amazing.
Mm.
I
It
love
was
that.
amazing.
And I love that, like, what's cool about a lot of those things is you can implement them no matter where you are in the world, right? If you went to Italy for a few months or something, right? You can wake up naturally, go for a walk, explore the neighborhoods, putter about, read, work on your documentary or whatever, the travel channel that I hope that you launch for us, right? FaceTime your kids, whatever it is, right? I just think it's just so cool that you had that vision before and then you got to live it out. So
Mm.
cool.
I wanted to ask you a question about something you said on the podcast the last time you talked with Erin. You talked about how you used to reward yourself by buying things. Like that was something would go well, and you would be like, "Cool, I'm going to go reward myself and buy some things and put it on the credit card." Um, is that still something that you have to manage, or is that like a thing of the past? Is that old Jillian?
I still love shopping. My first career was in the fashion industry. I had my own clothing store. So there's still a place in my heart for shopping and fashion. Um, but when I do that, I use cash, and don't I don't have as much desire to have things anymore. I'm tired of filling the house up with, home accessories and that kind of thing. And I have a huge passion for thrift shopping and clothing swaps now. I love the thrill of the hunt for clothing in thrift stores, thrift situations now.
I love that.
Turning into such a thing. I love that so much for you too. How cool that you're doing that also. I think that's just good in general for the environment and the fact that more and more people are on board with this. I'm on board with that too. Tell us about this documentary.
It's kind of in limbo at the moment. It's a project that I've been working on for 5 years. I have applied for funding in several different grant organizations, and have not been successful in getting enough grant money to do the film the way I want it done. I'm not an editor. I wanted to hire an editor and a sound designer and have an original score. I wanted to do a really full production piece. And because I haven't had the funding yet that I want for the film, it's still it hasn't happened yet. I did start editing it in Mexico because I felt like it needed to advance in some way. Um, so yeah, so if I get this funding, it's a TELUS Fund grant, then I will be able to talk a lot about the film, and I will be doing I think it's an 8-episode series about a woman who has diabetes who undergoes an experimental transplant surgery.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a project that has been ongoing for a really long time, but if I don't get the funding, then I'm going to continue to edit it myself, and it will be a single feature length doc. But yeah, so that's where it's at right now.
Okay, well, you have to keep us posted, first of all, whenever this
Yeah.
is available so that we can make sure that we share the link with everyone because that sounds
Yeah.
fascinating.
When she gets the money, I'm convinced she's going to get the money. When she gets the money, we're going to do a special episode and and then put it in the newsletter and do like a bunch of stuff to support it.
Something about retirement as well. Retirement doesn't mean never doing anything. It means when someone asks the question, if money were no object, what would you do? This
Yeah.
is what I get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
So I'll be working on documentary films. And as discussed, I do have a huge wanderlust. So I do foresee in my future that any of my audio or visual work will have something to do with travel.
Mm.
Yes, I knew it. I knew it.
Well, we're liking and subscribing right now
Right now.
to
Right
all the
now.
things that Jillian's doing. We're full in, all in.
So
Jillian, just as we're wrapping up, will you tell me what Erin means to you and what get the hell out of debt has meant to you?
Mhm. I have no words really. Since that first transformation weekend that was life transforming, my life has continued to be life transforming. I spend lots of time over the years quiet and just watching what everybody else is doing and then get the hell out of debt. And then, so I sort of ebb and flow, but I'm always following some part of Erin's method and the get the hell out of debt method. I journal every day. I have separate journals. I have a gratitude journal and then another journal that is about like productivity and growth and dreaming and goal planning and that kind of thing. So I do all of the stuff that she teaches, and I think part of what keeps me doing it is that she's still in our lives. I didn't take this weekend seminar one time and then have to go back to my notes or have to remember it. Um, she provides accountability by still being in my life, um, and providing achievement club and providing the video courses that we can access again and again, and the way she is involved in the communities as well. The way she personally reaches out and connects with people is, I think, a really, really special thing. And it mm, keeps us, keeps me more engaged, I think, than with any of the other seminars or books or methods that I've learned about.
If someone's listening right now too and they haven't signed up for the course yet, what would you tell them?
Oh, you can't do it fast enough. I would have every single person on the planet following the get the hell out of debt method, or and if they've never been in debt, I'd still have them learn it for the phase 3 part of it. I think there's so much valuable information in it. I think everybody should have those tools.
That's
well,
it.
I am still not apologizing for saying F you for being so
Twice.
I
You
like
said it twice.
I know. I'm very inspired by your Mexican skincare routine. I would like to know all of the details of that.
partially a lot of water, and also it's not a Mexican skincare routine. I get is it tallow or yallow? Tallow
Oh,
product from Sutina, from an
oh,
indigenous man. Makes
tallow.
an amazing product.
This is like the third, I think it's a sign. This is the
I think
third
it's
time I've
a
heard
sign.
about it because I've seen
Yes.
a bunch of people talk about it. Okay. I am so shallow, I will use the tallow.
I think we have to clone you is what I think is going to have to happen because Jillian was just talking about how you keep everybody in this course basically accountable. You are touching base with them all. You are in our Facebook group and you are keeping tabs on everybody. And just so you know, like it's really getting busy in there. So I feel like we might need to sign you up for some science experiment or something and clone you.
Listen, before you do that, make sure you buy stock in Starbucks because the drive-throughs are about to get a lot busier.